I want to tell you a story that defies our expectations of how we would typically qualify a person or deem them worthy of love. This story is super impactful to me because my job in campus life is actually called parent life. I work with teen parents, and unfortunately, they have all too often felt what it's like to be unfairly judged and outcasted by friends and adults alike. So, there's this woman in the Bible. She's going to this well to get a drink of water, and Jesus shows up. Well, what's interesting about this is the fact that she is a Samaritan woman and Jesus is a Jew. There was a whole lot of racial tension between Samaritans and Jews. They hated each other. In fact, Jews typically avoided this place altogether. So Jesus looks at her and asks, "Please give me a drink." The woman was stunned. She said, "I'm surprised you asked me for a drink. You are a Jew and I am a Samaritan woman." And Jesus replied, "If you only knew the gift God has for you and who you're speaking to, you would ask me and I would give you living water." His response shocked the woman, but as if that wasn't enough, Jesus told her he could give her living water so that she would never thirst again. Jesus used the word living water to describe eternal life, the gift that satisfies her soul's desire only available through him. Still, not fully understanding him, she said, "But sir, you don't have a rope or a bucket. How could you get this living water?" Jesus replied, "Anyone who drinks this water will soon become thirsty again. But those who drink the water that I give will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring within them, giving them eternal life." I mean, really, could you imagine what that must have been like for her? I think of all the times in life where we try to fill our soul's desires, and it's never really enough. Whether it's with dating relationships, money, cars, things, they're all temporary. Nothing ever fills that eternal void. But here we have Jesus offering her eternal life, and just like that, she starts to get it. She says, "Please, sir, give me this water and I'll never be thirsty again." And then the story shifts, and actually, it's one of my favorite parts. Jesus looks at her and says, "Go and get your husband." She replied, "I don't have a husband." Jesus said, "You're right. You don't have a husband, for you've had 5 husbands, and you aren't married to the one that you're living with now." And I imagine in that moment her heart sank. He knew her truth. He knew why she was there all by herself instead of going when the rest of the people would have been there. She was unfairly judged and outcasted by everyone else for her past. So, ashamed, the woman began to talk about religion and politics to kind of change the subject. But then she ends it by saying, "I know that the Christ is coming, and he will explain everything to us." Jesus told her, "I am the Christ." And then it clicks. She really gets it. I'm sure in that moment it all made sense. Jesus wasn't judging her, he was unconditionally loving her in spite of her past. You see, something I love about this story is that it shows that you don't have to have it all together for Jesus to use you. The Bible tells us that Jesus doesn't call the qualified or the people who have it all together. He qualifies who he calls. And the beautiful part in that is that it means that he can use me and you and even a woman who had 5 husbands and was living with one she wasn't married to. By reaching out to the Samaritans, Jesus showed that his mission was to all people, not just the Jews. Jesus didn't care about her race, her gender, her beauty, her age, and even past. He cared about her eternity. And that just blows my mind every time I think about it. Then, filled with a bravery that she never had before, she ran into town and told the very people that she was once avoiding, "Come see a man who has told me all I've ever done. Could he be the Christ?" Thinking about this woman and of what Jesus must have meant to her, what if all she was waiting on was for one man to truly know her, know all of her past and her shameful history. And what if she was just waiting on this one man to stay? Jesus stayed. And that brings me to a question that I want to leave you with. What if all the junk you thought you had to hide, all the things you thought you had to figure out, what if Jesus already knows? What if, just like this woman, Jesus is waiting to unconditionally love you despite your junk? I believe he is patiently waiting on you at the well to choose eternal life through Christ. But will you choose him?